Ahead and get started, folks. Susan, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming to join us at the Wednesday, June 3rd, 2015 Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority meeting. A roll call. Bob Gunzel.
Here.
Roger Hewitt.
Here.
Marie Clough. Here. Joan Lowenstein.
Here.
Al McWilliams.
Here.
John Moat.
Here.
Rishi Narayan.
Here.
Keith Orr.
Here.
C. Powers.
Here.
Sandy Smith. Here. Sean Split. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Now's the time for audience participation. We've got a couple of people signed up. Deb, I think
Am I going?
you're signed up.
Okay.
Ready to
Hi.
go?
I have 3 minutes or something like that. Hi, Deb Pollock.
You actually have 4 minutes, and I'll give you a 1 minute signal
Okay,
when
thank
you've
you.
got 1 minute left.
Okay, thank you. All the rules.
There you go.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Deb Pollock. I'm the director of the Arts Alliance. And we worked with the Downtown Development Authority on the Power Art project. Just as a refresher, these are the power boxes that provide the electricals for the traffic signals throughout downtown Ann Arbor, actually throughout everywhere. But this was actually an idea that came to us. We were asked to consider doing it and taking artwork, original artwork, and then having it put into a vinyl wrap that would then wrap in the power boxes. It was supposed to initially be a project that was both the DDA and the Public Arts Commission. You will probably also recall that that was happening at the same time the Public Arts Commission was being defunded through the Percent for Art program. The DDA committed $20,000 to the pilot, and then we were able to secure another $11,000, just shy of $11,000 through a public art fund through the Community Foundation that is actually held in trust for the city of Ann Arbor. So we reduced the pilot from 14 to 8 boxes, so that fit into that budget. And for the most part, everything went pretty much according to plan. In the packet that's in front of you, you will see in the last few pages the images of the first 8 wraps that have been installed and were finished as of last week. The good news is the public is loving this. The response to Facebook pages and Twitters have been really outstanding, as well as the mission through the Ann Arbor News. The responses through the Ann Arbor News and the commentary has also been very, very positive. We've also received, and we worked with the merchants organizations in identifying the first 8 locations, and the 4 merchants organizations are very excited about this. They'd like us to move forward as a partnership to cover all the remaining 34 power boxes that are in the DDA's footprint, but also add to it the 4 Detroit Edison boxes, the DTE energy boxes that are in what is known as Transformer Plaza over on Forest Avenue. And so we have put, the packet that you have in front of you is a report on the pilot, and then a proposal in final draft, hence the final draft on here, about going forward to do the second phase of this, or the second 2 phases of it. We would recommend this being broken into 2 calls for art. These are all Washtenaw County artists, by the way. One that would happen hopefully this September, and then the next, which would September. Yes, it would happen this September, and then the following that would go through October of the following year. We've also submitted, are working with, hoping to receive funding from other sources besides the DDA, looking at the merchants organizations, perhaps some sponsorship opportunities depending on how that could be fixed, and so forth. So do I get Q&A time in my minute or not? Okay, great. So anyway, here's the information, the proposal. I've also, by the way, just to keep you informed on what's going on with the Arts Alliance, put our annual report in front of you too as a consideration, and thank you.
Thank you very much. The second person signed up is Nancy Shore.
Is it this one?
Oh, I thought.
Wait till July. I do have.
Oh,
one
I'm
that
sorry.
Yeah,
I
there's
misunderstood.
always something. Yeah, that's for next time.
Oh.
But I do want to let all of you know we are, as you are, sort of part of the Arbor Bike program in terms of being supporters of it. And all the stations for Arbor Bike have been installed downtown, and there's going to be a launch party on Friday from 11:30 to 1 on the corner of Southview and Eastview, sort of by Ulrich's. So I think everybody's encouraged to attend. I know Sabra is going to be there and speaking. I'm going to say some things. U of M is going to have somebody there to speak as well, but there'll be pizza from Pizza House and just a chance to do a ribbon cutting and to celebrate something else that's exciting that's happening downtown. So just want to invite everybody, make sure you know about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? I'll give you 1 minute.
Okay. Hi, my name is Edward Vilmetti. I'd like to comment on one of the items that was discussed at the Operations Committee that did not make it onto the subcommittee report. There was a brief discussion of cleanliness of the parking structures, in particular human waste found in some of the stairwells of the structures. I don't know what the current cleaning schedule is. I don't know how bad the problem is. But when people have to take a dump in the stairwell because there's no public, because there's no public toilet facilities close enough that are supported and cleaned regularly and whatnot, then that's the makings of a public health crisis. And so I would recommend, if I had to make a suggestion to spend money, is to identify one or more of the downtown parks that could have a temporary porta potty set up for the busiest, hottest, stinkiest months of the year, and to fund a porta potty in such a place that it would be found by people who would otherwise take a dump in the parking structure. And I think that would be a net public benefit, and I think that would be a good use of the DDA's money. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Seeing none, moving on to reports from city boards and commissions. Mr. Ray Decker.
First, I want to remind you of our annual downtown party, which is tomorrow. It's Thursday, June 4th, starting at 6:30 at 120 North Division Street. And I hope that you're planning on being there. Last night's CAC meeting was devoted to a discussion of the premium issues. We spent a lot of time on this lately, as have a lot of other groups. We were all asked to read, that is all of us that I sent the copies to, the recent ENP Associates, that's formerly Purdue Group, document Ann Arbor Premiums Prioritization Summary and Recommendations Report, which will be publicly discussed at a working session of the Planning Commission on Tuesday, June 9th, 7:00 p.m., and that allows also for some public input at that particular point. This is really tough reading. 32 pages of complex reporting and discussion of future premium possibilities and alternatives. A premium, for anybody who doesn't know it, is the giving of extra FAR, that is floor area ratio, to a developer because their project provides some benefit that the community defines, that is open space, housing, whatever that might be. We are aware that some people, some members of our group in Ann Arbor believe that there should ideally be no premiums granted for any reason. What we want is the community should be specifically required in improved zoning ordinances that recognize the need to, and I quote here, to help articulate the massing of larger new buildings to fit sensitively into the existing development context and encourage design approaches that minimize the extent to which high-rise buildings create negative impacts in terms of scale, shading, and blocking views. They define the nature of some of the negative impacts. Context, of course, is a consideration. It's clearly is a consideration clearly defined with the goals and recommendations of the downtown plan. The word is used a lot to talk about what it is that we're trying to preserve. We already are in the process of revising our zoning to better achieve this design goal. It's out there, and it's going to be coming back to the planning, to the city council at some particular point with regard to changes we've already approved. And the Citizens Advisory Council has taken the position that our participation in the whole process of rezoning and also in premiums will be based on the principle that no premiums should be granted at any time if they have a negative impact upon the historic character of downtown or the context of nearby residential and historic neighborhoods. That is, protect the livability of residential zone neighborhoods adjacent to downtown. That's one of the important goals of the downtown plan. And we happen to believe that 413 East Huron was a zoning and premium granting mistake. Perhaps some would describe it as a disaster. Everyone on our city council also agreed that it was a mistake, but nonetheless we approved it, the project, fearing that we would be sued if we did not. We don't want that to happen again. Just as we believe that our zoning should regularly be re-examined, as it is in the process of doing now, and modified. We also believe that our zoning premiums should be re-examined every 3 to 5 years to make sure there's still things that we want to have happen in the area of the downtown. And those premiums we now accept at this point and in the near future to incentivize developers should gradually be included among the required specifics of our zoning instead of continuing to be indefinitely premiums. That includes premiums for housing, affordable workforce of lower income, energy preservation, and also design. Until that happens, we will continue to support the use of planned projects in the downtown that can provide specific public benefits and better buildings in the downtown area. And finally, we are encouraged by the fact that at the last meeting that I went to, which was the Design Review Board, that they discussed the whole business of asking developers in the future to come to them twice. Once before they start already designing development. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, DDA members' communications. Does anyone have anything? Steve, do you have, oftentimes you have something to share. Do you have anything this month? Darn it. It's worth a shot.
I would briefly.
Sandy.
I just want to address something that's on the operations committee reporting out. And I want to do this ahead of time just because I don't want to bog down that report for one. And I was not able to join for that particular committee, but I do want to make sure that we don't lose the parking piece in the Carytown area. So I think that it's an interesting conundrum that we have. We are way too busy, and twice a week. It is a circling nightmare of cars. It's difficult for those that have businesses there, for people to access in any way, shape, or form on a Saturday morning. And we have a parking structure very close that's not being utilized. And so I hope that this conversation can continue, and I hope that we can look at some demand management techniques, some ways that we can encourage both the farmers and the patrons of the farmers market to get over to Ann Ashley in some ways. I don't know what the solution is. That's not my area of expertise, but I do know, living it on a regular basis, that it's only going to get worse. The parking lot that ran between Main Street and 4th, that was parking for a lot of vendors and people, is of course now closed, and it is housing. So that's added a little bit to what's going on. So I want to make sure that I'm stating this out loud, that the area needs help. There's going to be changes at the farmers market that's going to add to more events happening there over time. It's going to continue to grow. It is a super exciting, vibrant cross-section of Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County, actually, that comes there twice a week right now. And we just need to find some strong solutions so we don't chase people away. And that's the next thing I hear, is people are bouncing off. It's like, nobody goes there anymore, right? It's too busy. So I just want to call that out. Thanks.
Thank you. I guess I'd add too is that we can keep in mind that we're going to also be looking at a streets improvement project in that area, which will impact potentially parking, loading zones, and all those things. So part of the farmers market planning, be good to try to, between the city, the farmers market, and us, to analyze that whole area.
So the loading zone right now consists of stopping in the middle of 4th.
Right.
And taking things to the car, so it gets pretty crazy.
Any other DDA communications? No? Seeing none? Executive Director Communications. Susan, please.
So I've got a few updates for you. The first one actually doesn't relate to us, but just out of great curiosity, earlier this month, Jada and I attended the Ann Arbor area, Ypsilanti area CVB Certified Tourism Ambassador Program. We are now certified. It's a great program. We had heard a little bit about it, and I'm glad that we did it. What you learn is a couple things. You learn, first of all, a lot more about more of the area attractions. And then you're also learning how to ask questions of the visitor so that you can direct them to things that are specific to their areas of interest. They've had a lot of response to that CTA program, and I think we're going to hear more about it from them. So for anybody who's interested, who's maybe seen this on TV, go to the CVB websites and you can learn a bit more about it. Second, I went to Grand Rapids, and in light of Nancy's great success with Get Downtown, they wanted to hear a little bit about Get Downtown and the Go Pass. They have a very comparable situation where some of the parking lots are getting redeveloped, which is putting stress on parking because both parking lot numbers are getting reduced and there are now more users. So they wanted to hear more about our Get Downtown program and Go Pass with the idea that maybe this is something they could emulate. And I wanted to share that with you. We're a decade ahead of them, but there's a lot of exciting things happening there, and I wouldn't be surprised if they come up with something maybe fairly similar to what we've done. Also, in terms of transportation, I'm volunteering on a Citizens Advisory Council for the Regional Transit Authority, and it's a program that I'm very excited about. I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I kind of grew up using a bus to get to a cable car, or the cable car to get to the BART, and I kind of started my working career and my life with transit connections. And I go to San Francisco and I use transit, and I get from transit to transit, and then I can walk. And it's something that Southeast Michigan is woefully behind on. But with the state legislation changed a couple years ago, there's now a planning initiative to weave together ATA with DDOT, with SMART, with the People Mover, with the new M1 rail, and then to fill in the gaps in between. We have the fortune in Ann Arbor, for instance, of this air ride to the airport from Ann Arbor. Think about it if Detroit had an actual easy connection to the airport as opposed to a local bus service. Think if we could get to Ferndale or Royal Oak or all these other cool places in our region. So there's a planning initiative underway. I urge people to go on the RTA website, sort of stay informed. There's one in particular that relates to us. There's a planning effort underway for a Michigan Avenue / Washington Avenue plan, a corridor plan, that's looking at ways to strengthen the transit along that. For most of us who get into Detroit on 94 or 96, at least for me anyway, it was a blank spot. I didn't realize I could actually use this to get to the city, and that's something we'll be hearing more about, where we're going to be asked to help give the details to how to make that corridor a stronger corridor. So it relates to downtown because, of course, Washington Avenue, but it also relates to us as a DDA. We're only as strong as our region, so the more we can think regionally, I think we'll be better. That said, other updates for you, as Deb shared with you about Power Art, we are looking to the next phase already. In anticipation, Deb and I worked together and put into the state on Monday a grant application. We're asking for the maximum, $30,000 under their project category. If we get it, it would be then matched by other sources. We're not yet ready to go to our partnerships committee or our ops committee for a grant for that project, but I just want to put it on your radar that we've put into the state. We hope to hear fairly soon. I think it'll be a highly ranked project. As Deb said, pretty universally, people are pleased. And then finally, in your work today on your agenda is an update to our FOIA policy. We first put forward our FOIA policy many years ago. State has enacted new legislation that requires that we update our FOIA policies, procedures, and so forth. So what you have in front of you are a few things. It is an update on our procedures, how we handle FOIAs. It covers things that the state wants us to note, that for instance, if a FOIA comes in by email, it might unfortunately get caught in a spam folder, so that we have spot checks on spam and so forth that's sort of woven in. There's then a requirement that we put forward a summary. So there's also a summary that repeats much of the same content, but in a more shortened way, so people have sort of a handier tool that they can access for information. And then we're required to be more detailed in our charging, how we charge for things. And very detailed so that people know when they're going in what would be the expectation. And so what you have in front of you, we have vetted many, many times. Thank you to the executive committee for also helping us keep an eye on it. We worked with our DDA attorney. My colleague Jada attended 2 seminars to make sure that what we had was compliant. And if you have any questions as you review it later in your agenda, you might ask Jada or I to come up. But thank you.
Terrific.
Let us know.
Thank you, Susan. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of our May 2015 meetings?
So moved. Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm really excited about those minutes.
Next, subcommittee reports. Operations Committee. Which, I'm not sure which one of you.
Start off with parking.
Parking?
Page 17. We received at the Operations Committee a report, parking report that we expect will be a monthly report now, outlining changes and ongoing activities in the parking system. We would like to review that. This should be part of our regular report every month now. Compliment John for encouraging that become part of the Operations Committee activities each month. And so if anyone has any questions. Second, we have a request from for free parking for the farmers market at Ann Ashley, as Sandy earlier described. I think we discussed this quite extensively, as well as how this fits into a larger policy. I think we are going forward with hiring a consultant team to look at our overall parking strategies going forward. I think the consensus seemed to be that this was an appropriate thing to be part of that study on how incentives for parking, whether they be free or what else, whatever other form that might take, how that fits into a larger overall strategy for parking. So I think we decided not to go ahead on this particular issue at the moment, but make sure that as we go into our parking study, first gathering data and then working on strategies, that we are sensitive both to this and to other issues for incentives for parking for particular events or so forth downtown. I think we did, I don't know if it's on the agenda here, but we did receive some requests for qualifications. We did not receive very many, unfortunately. I think there were only 2, and 1 did not meet all our qualifications. So we are at the moment documenting all the firms that we sent requests for qualifications to make sure we are sure why they are not responding, although it appears that a number of them are partnering with the one who did submit a proposal to work under contract as part of this proposal. It seems that part of it is that during the recession there was quite a bit of shrinking in that industry, and that now they're a little short-staffed, so didn't get as much response as we would have liked, although we were quite happy with the firm that did respond. They the ones who did our parking study back in 2006? 7. It was a long time ago.
Roger, may I ask a question?
Sure.
The related to parking and the work they do, I wonder if one thing that we could consider is that if folks have particular areas that they are concerned about, my beef personally is in front of the Y. Lack of parking, traffic congestion. To me, it's a huge problem there. I would suggest that folks who are familiar with all different parts of downtown, if there's sort of targeted areas that concern you, maybe that's something we could highlight to the consultants as things that are, sort of focal points to look at.
Yeah, and we are looking for a long-term overall strategy on how to address the growing demand for parking and the limited facilities we have. So we heard what you said, and we're going to make sure that is part of the study. We also discussed into more parking logistics. Sunday, how to accommodate churchgoers on Sunday during the art fair, if the art fair does indeed, and as it now appears it will, switch next year from a Thursday to Saturday time frame to Wednesday through Saturday time frame to a Thursday through Sunday time frame. And we've worked out with Republic Parking and with the churches. I want to compliment the merchant associations and the art fairs for working very diligently with the churches to address their concerns. I think we've addressed their concerns as far as charging for parking and also availability of parking on Sunday morning. And I believe it went to council this week and was approved, the change.
City council did
City council,
approve
yeah, so-
the change, yes.
So next year, we are, our fair will be on Thursday through Sunday. There will be free parking available for churchgoers on Sunday morning. We still have some logistics to work out on exactly how that will take place, but I think we satisfied the churches, and we are clear of what their needs are. So I think we'll be good to go on that. And I think that's all for parking right now.
All right. So I'm next. Downtown Street Design Manual. It's taken a long time, but it's done. Boom. For next steps, just so people are aware of how this will live on, is that the documents, technical portion of it is being sent to the Public Services Administrator for approval and adoption into the Orange Book, which is sort of the city's Bible, if you will, for sort of technical issues related to construction. So that's sort of a major piece, you know, that integration with the city's processes. The other thing that's going to happen is there'll be a series of rollout meetings to try to introduce this document to staff at the city, any University of Michigan folks, practitioners, developers, you know, folks out there in the world who we'd like to actually actively use this thing as they're looking at projects moving forward. So those are the two major follow-up steps that will be happening soon. And I want to take this opportunity to compliment Amber on just a tremendous job. It's been a long process, lots of people to get on the same page. I think it was a very successful example of collaboration with the city, and I think everyone should feel good about it. And Amber, you in particular, I give you a vote. That's all I have.
Fourth and William construction update. The demolition phase of phase one again being the construction of a new stair tower, will be complete this week. Next week they will begin erecting steel for the new tower. That steel erection will be complete by Art Fair, and then the stair tower should be complete and ready to use later this year. And the contractor will be also during Art Fair moving out of the Polio lot to make way for Art Fair. So that's, again, we always have that Art Fair deadline around here. That's what they're shooting for, to have the steel up, and we will see things starting going up into the air next week.
That's a good question about the steel piece. Is there a contingency plan in case they're not done with erecting steel in time for
I'm
Art Fair?
assuming there is, but I think at this point they're extremely confident they will. If it appears that that's in any jeopardy, then I'm sure that we will be coming up with a contingency plan. But they seem quite confident at this point that, and I don't see any reason to doubt them.
Okay, fair enough.
But yes, if that doesn't work out, there will be a contingency plan, and we will be on top of it.
And just so others know, there are weekly meetings with the construction folks.
Yeah, they are
so
bi-weekly
we're being
meetings.
kept up to date, you know.
Correct.
Week by week.
We are staying very much on top of the schedule.
Great. Thank you. Lake House?
That would be me. It's a very boring report, which is a good thing. It means everything is on schedule and within budget. If you've gone by there, you've seen that the walls to bring even greater in, the floor is in. I saw electrical there, so I'm assuming rough electric is done. And steel is going to be installed in early June, and we're on schedule to be done by the end of June or early July.
Very good. Future projects, design and construction planning.
I believe there is one scenario on page 19 of possible timing for the capital improvements that the board has outlined for the next 6 years. Not to steal Rishi's thunder, but we did have a little.
all I got to talk about.
I know, I'll be vague. It does look like there will be, we've gotten some information from the city that our TIF revenues may be slightly greater than we had originally budgeted for. So we are not probably going to be quite as constrained time-wise from a financial standpoint, although we certainly are going to be constrained from a staffing standpoint on how much we can undertake at what time and what time frame. So we've directed staff to come up with several different scenarios of timing of the various projects that we can review at the next committee meeting and come up with a recommendation for the board on what the final timing for these projects should be. And also whether we should consider additional staffing or consultant assistance to help us with what's going to be a pretty ambitious construction plan over a 6-year period.
And a very exciting one.
Yeah. And that's all I have.
So the next committee meeting is Wednesday, June 24th at 11 a.m. Finance Committee.
Well, Roger stole most of my thunder, so I'll just quickly gloss over some things. First, update on the budget for 2016. We had a discussion about some city council budget amendments, so that they passed their budget, and it had some requests and recommendations for us. Nothing really to report yet. Nothing has changed. Our budget has not changed, but we are doing a little bit of research into what we need to do if we need to do anything. So I will probably report back on that in the next month or so. But we did discuss like what we needed to do or how we needed to account for some different requests. We may not need to do anything, just may need to pass along more information on some of our capital improvement projects and how they already take into account some of the requests as is. So, but from a budget standpoint, there's no changes as of yet. Roger touched on the future projects planning. So from a financial committee standpoint, we are not commenting on projects, just on the financial feasibility of projects and the timeline in which they are selected and they go through. And on page 19, as Roger alluded to, there's a great little chart that we started at the retreat and continued and tweaked and tweaked and tweaked and tweaked, and here's where we have it. Cool thing about this project scenario is it goes off of our best guesses on TIF prior to some revised numbers. So even though we're a little bit, it kind of all finagles out and we're a little over budget in year 2021, we should be fine. And as Roger mentioned, we actually are projecting to have more TIF capture come in. This allows us to have some buffer for these projects, which we all know we're going to need, so that's nice. And maybe possibly we're going to look at the timing on some of these projects. But by and large, we went through this. The dollars work. We also looked at it in the 10-year in the context of the 10-year plan. So this is the 6-year plan, so to speak. But then there's a 10-year plan. Looked at that in that context as well, and so we're giving our stamp, so to speak, on this scenario. But it's likely that we'll have some more discussions when things come through. So that's basically it. We talk a lot about numbers and stuff, so that's cool. But that's about it. So next meeting is Tuesday, June 23rd at 1 p.m.
Thank you. Next, partnerships. Economic Development Committee. John?
Yes, we had our updates from our various partners, including Planning Commission, where Jeremy Peters, who comes to our partnerships meeting, talked about Planning Commission continuing to discuss more ideas about encouraging affordable housing. And some of this might involve the issue of accessory dwelling units, which tends to rear its head often. And then in the City Council, we heard about proposed budget amendments, which is all now done after the last City Council budget meeting. And one thing that came up regarding the downtown were some concerns that neighbors may have about the South Main projects that are going up. I also would like to, I think, explore for our next meeting something that we have been talking a little bit about, also in terms of what operations has been doing and what Sandy talked about regarding the Carytown parking, is that we, and with this new, with the request regarding the change to art fairs, is that we frequently now are getting requests for some kind of free parking. And I think one area we ought to explore, and particularly within partnerships, is identifying those requests as really requests for grants, because when we allow free parking, it really is a grant on our part to do that. And so as we formulate kind of our policy on grants, on coming up with criteria within partnerships for grants, I think that we could encompass something, have sort of a one-size-fits-all for looking at criteria for grants, and put the request for free parking in those terms as well, and have those really come through partnerships, and then back to operations and parking, you know, when it comes to logistics. But just as a, you know, as a looking at whether there are criteria there for that kind of a grant, it probably should come through partnerships. So we'll discuss that a little bit at our next meeting. And that next meeting is June 10th at 11.
One quick thing I'd add to that too is that one of the appealing things about doing it as a grant is that we've already got a fairly robust system in place for tracking grants, and so it's a nice way to, you know, have our systems be consistent as we move forward. Communication Committee, Al.
So we spent some time looking at the spring update, which is basically a condensed, updated version of the State of Downtown report. I got some feedback from committee members about what's included, what we liked. Again, Amber spent a great deal of time putting that together, so thank you. And then we went on to talk about, okay, now we have this thing, how do we get it into the faces of more folks? It really focuses on a lot of the why we're doing all these little things, so it's even good for us to look at. You know, it kind of looks at the results of these things. We have a mission statement on the board, so these are some numbers that really speak to that, as far as number of new businesses that have opened downtown, number of new employee hires downtown, all that kind of stuff. So, so we can actually kind of start quantifying some of these long-term projects, these infrastructure projects that are leading to the building of our, you know, encouraging private investment in the downtown. And we can kind of see some of the quantification of that. So, so that report is done and out, and at our next meeting, which is on Wednesday, June 10th at 12:30 p.m., immediately following the partnerships, we're going to talk about, you know, how we can get that out more into the community. In case anyone wants to contribute to that discussion.
All right, great. Any questions for Al? Seeing none. Executive Committee. You'll see on pages 20 through 46 in your packet, there's a resolution to modify the Ann Arbor DDA FOIA policies. I would ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support. Thank you. Susan gave a pretty good quick synopsis as part of her report earlier in the meeting. I want to remind folks that she and Jada are available if you have any more specific questions about this very meaty document. I think one thing maybe I should add, I can't remember whether Susan had mentioned this, but it has been reviewed by our attorney, Jerry Lax. Is that
It's true.
accurate?
Yes, a couple times.
So I think it's been, and I think a couple of other folks here on the board have taken a look at it too. So I think that it's the best we can do at this time. It'll probably need to be tweaked in time, but for those of you who are interested in these things, take a deep dive. Go for it.
I have a question, Susan, and I should have asked this before when we were looking at it, but I just noticed it today actually, that there's in one section it says that if there's a request that the DDA will furnish a certified copy of a public record. Are we actually able to do that?
So what we do is I am certifying that this is the actual record.
Okay.
It is a.
I know like the city clerk's office has some kind of stamp or something, but I just didn't know if that was something we're able to do. Okay.
Yeah, that was one of the questions that we checked with our attorney about.
Okay, great.
Probably should have actually done it. It's a fairly short resolution on page 20. Resolution to modify Ann Arbor DDA FOIA policies. Whereas the state of Michigan has put forward new Freedom of Information Act FOIA requirements for public agencies effective July 1st, 2015, which necessitates that the DDA modify its FOIA policies. Whereas upon consultation with the DDA attorney, the DDA Executive Committee developed a set of new FOIA procedures and guidelines which it recommends for approval by the DDA and are attached to this resolution. Resolved, the DDA approves its revised FOIA policies and guidelines effective July 1st, 2015. Any other questions, concerns? Folks ready to? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those who disapprove? Very good. So, one other quick thing. At our executive committee meeting, we are in the process of doing our yearly evaluation of our executive directors. So that's in process, thanks to those folks who've gotten information back to me. And we would expect to shoot for bringing something forward at next month's meeting, forward a resolution for any changes to compensation and such things. Next item, new business. Do we have any new business? No. Other audience participation. Do we have anyone else out there who would like to speak with a limit of 4 minutes?
My name is Edward Gometti. I want to thank you for getting the new FOIA policy approved. I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure I will. The Michigan state law changes put into effect codify a number of things that have been in case law and have some new efforts and procedures. I will be happy to test the new policies for you.
Thanks. Does anyone else wish to speak to the board today? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Marie, you don't want to stay? Thank you very much, folks.
Pretty good.